evening and welcome to the Highgate Selectboard meeting for Thursday, September 6, 2018. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming.
Can we get everybody to come in and sit down?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with public comment for anything that is not on the agenda.
Sharon, I'm just giving you update on the trees and stuff at Monument Road. They were removed last week from New Hampshire. One of my main concern, and I've had quite a few people ask me this winter, the bus goes down there at 7 o'clock. We lost probably between 16 and 17 trees down there. We need either a snow fence there or something to prevent the snow from drifting into the road. That is one thing I'm very concerned about because the school bus goes down there at 7 o'clock in the morning. I am just letting you update. The state was down there today. They are still trying to find money to wrap up the bank. I talked to them myself personally today. I told you I will keep you guys informed. That's where I am at right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I just have two questions, but one is about Casella's. How come we're having to pay for recycling now when that was supposed to always be free for us? Do you know anything about why they're deciding to do that to us?
It was free for us. They have since had more regulations come through the state, which makes them do more things. And they have given us a charge of
$1.50 a bag.
Yeah, $1.50 a bag for recycling now.
Which I know, but now how are they gonna determine it's gonna be just one bag size? Because I don't even bring mine in a bag, but I'm just saying, is that?
That we'll have to call
Ask them.
Casella, yep. Yep, if you call, I think her name is Rachel
Mm-hmm.
at the transfer station.
Yeah.
She'll be able to tell you exactly what size. And if you have any other concerns of what can or cannot be recycled, I'm sure she can answer that.
I'd also read somewhere that the market value of recycling materials was way down.
That is true.
So they're
So
not,
maybe that's
they're
why.
not getting the revenue that they used to for selling the materials.
Yeah, I did hear that too. I think they actually have to pay to get rid of it now. But Michael Casella of Casella has agreed to come to the September 20th meeting to
Okay.
address the changes going on.
Be nice actually to hear them out.
They should have advertised it in the paper and stuff, they were doing it. There was no advertisement out there.
Just on the recycle thing.
Yeah, that's only because I called her about something totally separate, and she said, "Oh, did you know?" And I said, "No."
Nobody knew. And can I also ask about the wonderful gazebo thing again?
What about it?
Please don't bring it to Highgate Falls, keep the music over here.
We do not have funding for it at the moment. We did not get the grant, so at this moment, there's nothing going on.
But that could start back up, correct?
It could.
Yeah, there is currently a recreation grant for funding for that. And I think that leads into why
Yeah, I'm here to,
Dick Harper's
that's
here.
one of the things I'll talk about.
Because I still see things over here where your new sidewalks are, and your businesses are, and facilities to go to the bathroom. And the people have been coming here 20-something years. They could pour a cement slab right beside the monument if they had to. But, okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else?
Sharon, can we get, we talked a little bit about, it the other day, some targeted patrols with the sheriffs, but can we, I know the Mill Hill project is going on, and I don't know, at the select board level, what your thoughts are, but really from the last residents on Mill Hill down, there's no reason for cars to go any farther than that, so.
Aren't you a teenager once?
Yeah, but I also, it was a different world then too.
So you
I don't
feel
know if we
there's-
get some patrols down there, or maybe incorporate a gate in that project, and at least feel out the residents of Mill Hill and see what their thoughts are, what they're seeing, because what I'm seeing is nothing positive happening down
I
there.
think we gotta do away with the patrols altogether and what do they melt to? Somebody's gonna get it up on the Gore Road. They're going like heck up through there, and you stop and talk to these guys out here, and they tell you have a good night. Well, they might as well go back to St. Albans. Enough's enough.
Yeah.
You know, when are we gonna get some patrol? We might as well not have them. Save our money. Put it somewhere else. It's getting awful. And up in Gore, somebody's gonna get hit up there side the road, and oh boy, everybody's hands are gonna go up. But we don't wanna stop them. If you call them, they come and they park right in the arena so they can see them and they slow up.
Yeah.
Hope they hide in some driveway or in a cornfield or
Does
something.
it have to be visible?
Or visible, well,
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Oh, yeah. All they want's the old lady that's
unfortunately-
got the tail light out. They're not gonna holler and you get all excited.
We already had a tragedy up there quite a few years ago. My cousin was killed up there in 1980.
Yeah. And it's not
March
just the
19,
gore, it's
1980.
all over.
It's gonna happen again.
Yeah.
And they just keep going and going and, you know, and then I had donkeys out there, they get side by side racing, donkeys go through the fence, it hits one of them, who's gonna be a fall?
Right.
Richard Flint. You know, enough's enough. If they don't wanna do their job, keep them in St. Albans. And then go and talk to them here, oh, have a good night, sir, like you're scared. If you're scared, go back to St. Albans. Right, Steve?
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are in a contract. We are looking at different options. We are, I don't know with a federal, department like that, how much they have leeway.
I mean,
For
just make the
patrols.
appearance. They don't have to do anything, just be up there, just, you know, 9:15 at night, drive through.
Yeah.
I know that when they would used to sit here at Frog Pond, we had like no problem with the ATVs. And that's all they were doing was sitting there, they weren't, you know what I mean? So if we could get maybe one or two to drive through there
And we
You know,
never had this much problem with ATVs
No, we
until the
didn't.
last couple of
No.
years.
yeah.
But they're advancing, they're going from the ATVs to the cars now.
Right, yes, yes, they are. And they're drag racing and everything else.
And we have the same frustration because we've yelled at them, I don't know how many times we've dragged them in here, and maybe it's time to have a different sheriff or a different, you know, they've both been here, both of the candidates.
Yeah, and I've had talks of them as well. For a while, they're good. I've even asked them to park in my driveway at the shop, and they do a good job for a little bit, and it seems like they don't come back. It's disturbing, because there is a lot of activity there, and we know it, and we have addressed it, and it is sad, because if something does happen, it isn't that we haven't made the effort, because I'll tell you, we've all talked. I know I have for a fact, and Sharon has, and it's, sometimes you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, but maybe they're on different calls, I don't know. I hate to keep after them, but we do. And the same thing we've addressed it with the state police, we've addressed it with the sheriffs, and we've also done it with the Fish and Game Department. We know them people quite well. Seem like they've been doing some stuff for us, but, you know, I guess there's a lot going on in a lot of places. And they probably can't be there as much as I'd like to see them. Because like I said, I've told them, you know, hey, you know, you're welcome to park in my shop, you know, especially on the weekends. And it just don't seem like it's that regular. But I'm sure they got other things that are going on too. So I don't want to bash them for if there's other issues that we don't know about too. So I'm not trying to give them a point up or anything, because I'm the other way around. I say, hey, you guys need to get here. And it does seem awful frustrating for us too, big time.
Well, do their job right, but also you can't high-speed chase a racer. I mean, that's ridiculous too, because now then you're endangering other people's lives.
Well, they caught some on the gore, but not as much as I think they could.
I've seen.
Yes,
so-
but we have, did we change
I
that
just-
in our thingy we did here? What was that called?
The ATV ordinance?
Yes.
So yeah, they're not supposed to be on the road, and
I mean.
they all know it.
Oh,
They
they
just
all know it,
don't
yeah.
give a rat's patootie.
Yeah.
Talk about not being on the road. I was at the Urban one day, 14 ATV pulls into Urban. As they're coming down the road, a state cop was going the other way. He drove right by him, just kept right on going. There was 14 of them just pulled in and parked.
So he should have known your ordinance though, right? Or no, not necessarily?
Well, they say no.
He knows they can't be on the state road, and they had to cross the state road to
Yeah,
get
that's
there.
state
They were
road.
coming
Ain't
right
nothing
down,
with
they were
us.
coming right down 78 and he was going the other way, so.
I mean,
Yeah.
this doesn't take a lot of rocket
I
science.
said, well, must be he's not interested in them.
No, and we talked about doing more with our constable, but at the moment, we are in constable flux, so we, hopefully can find some way to solve that issue too, and maybe we can get that person out there doing more patrols, more fines, more towing. 'Cause a lot of it, if an adult has to bail out a kid's four-wheeler once or twice, he'll figure it out, or she will figure it out.
Whether-
Getting back to the other topic about Mill Hill, I'm not talking ATVs, you know,
We're talking cars.
it's, yeah.
But what are you talking about a gate? I don't understand
Yeah.
that. Put the gate
You know where we stop plowing the snow
Oh,
in the
down.
winter?
Oh, down there?
If they don't go that far during the winter, why do they have to go that far during the summer months, you know? It may be an option. There's other, you know, towns like Richford and Enosburg have worked with the sheriff's department and got grants through public safety to put camera monitoring in certain areas. Maybe that'd be an area of interest. I mean, there's ways to steer, you're never gonna stop people, but steer them away from.
What's going on down there? Drug dealing, basically?
Yeah, I
Well, it's only
imagine,
because you moved them from over here. So they have to have somewhere else to go. That's the truth.
Well, there's still.
I mean, there
some
probably
over there,
still is, but not as much. They probably go down there now. You know?
Well, yeah, they got a nice spot cleared out for them from all the work that was done down there, so they go
Yeah.
down there and.
that was my only concern.
They deal all over some about it.
so.
I have-
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't mean to rush. There was one more public comment. Josh Aldridge had planned to be here, but he couldn't, so he filled out a park usage request form. He'd like to have a barbecue in the park.
So that's, this Sunday, actually. So we did let him have that usage last year, or 2 years ago, sorry.
Everything went good last year.
Yeah, I think he had a small barbecue meet and greet thing for his
And he
campaign.
did a good job. He cleaned it all up and he did everything like he was requested. He did.
So do I have a motion
I'll make a motion
to accept?
Accept. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
What's the hours on that, does it say?
Nope. Just says Sunday barbecue.
6 AM to 6
That's
PM.
don't say that. Okay, middle of the day.
Breakfast, lunch, and supper.
That's it. Lunch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any others? Okay. So we have Mr. Harper here.
Hi there.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Based on the last question, am I supposed to have filled out a park request form for the concert series?
No, we kind of grandfather you in.
Oh, okay. Well, the fact is that we've been doing it, this was our 28th season of Summer Sounds. And we managed, Wendy and I were talking about this earlier, we managed to stay outside in the park for all 6 Sundays this year, which is somewhat unusual. We've had a couple other seasons that we didn't get chased, but
Come close though, a couple times.
we came close a couple of
Yeah.
times.
The
Yeah.
last
This
one
last time,
the last
right?
one came. Oh,
Came
yeah.
real close.
Real close.
About a half
Yeah.
hour left.
Yeah, and we got lucky on that one because Jimmy T ran over a bit on the first set, so we actually got a fair amount of music in, but the last set was about 12 minutes long, I think. Okay, before we get to the reason that I actually came, I wanted to give you, sort of a look back and a couple of comments. The whole series is important, I think, to me and certainly to the town because it helps draw people to the village center. And that's always a good thing, especially now that we're putting a focus on the identity of the village as opposed to just Greater Highgate. And of course, it contributes to that kind of a town identity because people, even the people who don't actually go to the concerts, also know about the concerts and they know we're doing things in town and it helps us be very Highgate. Some of you may know this history, but we started because Ray Tangway, who was our first town administrator, came to me with $200 and said, "Gee, Dick, let's have some concerts." And I looked at him and I thought for a minute, okay, you want to have one guy out there with a drummer, one drummer with an upside down wastebasket, and that's going to be our concert. $200? How are we going to do this? And from that, we've grown a partnership, and it's a partnership between the town, the sponsors, the businesses here in town, our hosts who don't contribute money, but they certainly contribute a lot to the events themselves, and of course the audience. And obviously our music from away people, the folks who actually come in to perform for us. And you take any one of those away and it all kind of falls apart. We use that model in other towns, that the town would contribute and the businesses would contribute. And it seems like the best way to have this long-running event going on. Well, looking forward, I said we've done it in other towns. I've put on Summer Sounds in not all, but many of the towns in Franklin County, and that sort of primed the pump for them. And the interesting thing to me is that a lot of them have now stepped up and are doing concerts on their own, which makes it a lot easier for me. And there are, outside of the concerts, there are more events in the county than there ever have been before. I look back in the week of August 12th, for example, and I just picked that week at random. There were 15 gigs on that week, 15 musical events. Now, some of them were commercial, Twigs would have something, or the Abbey would have something going on. But those are still things that draw audience. So we've gone from 1 a week to 15 a week, and I think that's pretty cool. Our audience has also changed, and this may not be something that you guys are particularly aware of. 10 years ago, I think we had about a 70-30 mix of visitors to locals. So we were drawing a lot of people into Highgate from outside. It's changed over those years, so that today, it's probably about 50-50. we're still getting a reasonable number of folks coming in from the other towns in the county. But really, we're catering more to our own residents. And then finally, our audience is aging. And this is something that's going to have an impact on us going forward. And our audience isn't the only part of it that's aging. So that brings me to my next piece, help wanted. I need help. I figure I'm good for a couple more seasons. I'll make it to our 30th anniversary, so we need a new me.
That's pretty big shoes to fill.
Big loafers.
Actually, it sounded like but that's something that we should all be thinking about is who can take this over, because it would be nice if it kept going. And then the other piece of it is that before and during every concert we have a social, and that's just wonderful. You know, people come up to me and say, "Hey, what's for dinner tonight?" Because they really do plan to eat a meal while they're there with us. So having that nonprofit is far, far better, I think, than just having, 14th Star come out or the food bus come out, because it keeps that partnership going. I'm having trouble getting hosts. Anne, my wife, was our host for 2, or maybe it was 3. I think it was just 2 of the concerts this year. And that's about 3 more than she wants to be. So this is my request to keep the word going out that we're looking for hosts. It's a chance that they have to show the flag. It's a chance they get to, they make up a few bucks, $50, $100. It's not a big fundraiser for them, but it's better than nothing.
What do they do? That's what I want to know.
Whatever they want.
Because maybe you could find somebody younger that would be interested in doing it. Like, is a teenager too young to do that?
Absolutely not. We've had some teens do it. Hi, Richard.
Quick hot dogs or hamburgers or
Yeah.
popcorn.
They have a grill right out there.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
fire
they-
department could volunteer to do that.
We might have to get a
I know
permission.
they don't
Better
want
talk to the
to.
fire department first.
I know they don't want to, but they should want to. It's their town.
It would be nice to have one event done by the fire department. The auxiliary and I have talked back and forth a couple of times, and it's always been hard to get them.
But,
But yes.
well, I might know some teenager that
Have them call me,
I will.
or call Wendy. I just
That
threw
might be
Wendy out
interested in
there.
doing that because she likes to do things like that.
Cool.
The PTKO at school has never been interested. They're
We-
always looking for some money.
It's always difficult for them to do things in the summer. The schools have done a few things. One year, MVU came out because they had some project that they needed to raise money for. So the kids did most of the work. There were a couple of adults who came with them. It was real good. But schools are tough because it's in the summer. Yeah. So anyway, that's that part of it. And now, the reason I actually came, location. Location. We already touched on the fact that there's a lot of talk around town, and I think you got hammered on a couple of weeks ago or 4 weeks ago about this move to the falls or to build a bandstand, all this thing put together. I haven't taken a formal survey, but I have talked with all the sponsors, and I've talked and listened to a lot of people who attend the concerts regularly, as well as others around town. None of the businesses actually told me that they would drop out from sponsorship, but all of them like keeping the activities in our downtown as opposed to moving them. Mike down at Drumac specifically mentioned that all the money and the attention that we've just been putting into the park, the new sidewalks, everything else we're doing. So he thinks that this park should be our jewel. This is where we should concentrate a lot of our effort. A few folks have suggested clearing trees and using the flat land around the White House for parking. And we get what, 10 or 15 more spaces if we did that, even keeping the building. So if people want to preserve the building historically, that could happen, and we'd still have parking around it, and that parking could be used for other things in town as well. And likewise, this is gonna go over popularly. A few have suggested buying the property next door to the park, so that the park goes all the way to Mill Hill.
My house is for sale if you wanna do it across the river in my yard. No.
Yeah, okay.
We'll clean that mess up.
No, you don't need to buy it though. I'm gonna go with no.
Well, it's just something that has been suggested to me. And several folks have said that moving away from this park takes away our basic Highgate-ness.
So that, would you say that the core of Highgate is right here?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
It is now.
I want you to say that good and loud.
so the core of Highgate is right here.
There you
I
go.
agree.
See how good I am at that?
Well, no,
So
but we're studying that for the Macy property, and people wanna know, where your core, where most, and that's been brought up, and, so the center of Highgate is the core
Mhm.
of this area. I feel the same, but, it just, if people are listening, and they
Yeah.
realize that there's a lot of,
And if you want me to, I'll talk on that for, what, I have another 30 seconds. We don't really, and haven't in all the time I've lived in Highgate, we haven't really had a downtown as such, but we're kind of leaning in that direction. And if there is anything that you could point to that's a downtown, it's the place where the post office and the library and the town offices and the major intersections come together. And when you get right down to it, we're sitting in that spot.
So we have had some complaints
Mhm.
about using Memorial for Veterans as a bandstand. So I think that was part of some of
Sure.
the
And,
concerns.
and something that we could do if we end up with some money. And how much do we have in the build a bandstand fund? Is it $200?
I think it's 262.
Whoa, we're really collecting. If the fire department was agreeable, we could very easily extend the front gable on their cover out and just put a stage under it, and that would give us a bandstand. We'd move away from the memorial monument.
definitely.
And by the way, I've talked to a number of veterans, and they've all said, "What? It's a great use for it." So, we're always going to get that kind of, well, this side says this and this side says that.
We have
So
the
the
same
last-
problem over there.
So the last concert you did with Jimmy T, it actually looks like a concert when you're under the
Mm-hmm.
fireman's pavilion.
Yeah.
Driving by, hey, there's not a couple guys set up on the monument. It actually looks like a concert. You can do more with it, with lighting and stuff, I feel, so.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is a good idea.
Having any kind of a bandstand is a great idea. It's difficult for us. And back when Walter still had the canopy tent, that awful thing, we set it up every week to put the band under. And it wasn't because we were afraid of rain most weeks. It was because it gave us a better feel that, oh, this is the stage, and it defined the stage for us.
Well, I hope that everyone that attends your concerts has had the opportunity to fill out a survey.
I am happy to report that not only did I announce it on Channel 15 for 2 or 3 weeks running, and of course to the audience, I even put it on the Arts Council website.
Nice.
So,
Because that's a great opportunity for
Mhm.
people to talk about what they would like to see in their village. That's one of the questions. And there will be 2 charrettes coming up where people are invited to come and participate and suggest
Charrette.
things like that.
what's a charrette?
Richard can explain the French definition, but
It's not charrette, I pronounce it chaudette.
Oh,
It's a cart. But where that expression came from is that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, in France, they did, it was amongst art people and stuff, they'd give suggestions they go around and get suggestions and they toss their notes in a cart. And they bring it around and get all the suggestions together. Oh, this is what the most of the people want to do.
Mhm.
And that's why these surveys are going out, excuse me, so that when the committee gets these surveys back, it gives us a direction. If you don't give us a direction, we will direct something, and it may not be what you like.
Right.
But with enough of these surveys out and returned to us, starts giving the committee an idea which direction and what the people would like to see in town, and then we could start trying to apply it and see if it's applicable, and then bring their suggestions back in the form that we found it can be done, and see if this is the direction they want to go.
How many have you gotten back so far?
There's 50 some odd.
50 some odd.
cool.
I think
We have 54 in hand.
That's
Um,
pretty good.
I
We'll be in
think
the
there's,
60 region, which is better than us 6 on the board going, I wonder what the fudge they want.
and there's a stack on the table for anyone who hasn't filled them out. You can fill them out online at the website, but Richard, would you be willing to hold up that poster so Jerry could zoom in on it? That's for the charrettes.
And understand that when we talk about French people throwing things in carts, I think of guillotines, and that makes me very nervous.
Well, that's what would happen if we did it on our own. But it's a shot at. A verduette is a wheelbarrow.
Okay.
So there's one planned for the 19th in the evening, 5:30 to 8:30, and then one on a Saturday morning for people that can't do a weekday.
You got copies there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
copies.
there are copies
Right here.
there.
Okay,
Anybody
so,
want any while I'm up?
Nothing.
Pass them out.
I have one.
At the school.
Right? They are at the school library, yes. Good point.
so other than to say that my gut tells me that I'll lose half the audience if we move to one of the other parks, that's pretty much all I have to say for you. Questions, comments?
Sorry to see that you will be leaving in a couple of years.
Well, you know, I'll be 70 years old next year for the series, and I figure maybe I get to take a weekend off in the summer now.
Well, hopefully they can find someone as devoted as you were.
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, we thank you. People do really love to get out, and it's a very nice time, and
Well, it is. It truly is a lot of fun
It's
for me,
beautiful.
which is why I've done it.
And
Don't
it's
take
one of the
the
only
bull-
things
don't
Highgate
take the
does
bull
for
by the
older
horns.
people
You
too.
don't have it.
Right.
You have, that's for sure.
Yeah, blame Tangway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that,
I
definitely.
remember him.
okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Dick.
No, I'm sorry, I ran out of tickets. I couldn't.
So Highgate Rec has something that they
Should I
would,
stop to say for this?
could certainly could.
No, are we going to continue on the grants? Did you say they have a grant for the gazebo or bandstand?
There is a grant available through Recreation available for.
Are they going to, are you going to, who is?
We have submitted.
Yeah.
I don't see us talking about that tonight.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you so much for
Go
coming.
stay.
Good job.
Thank you.
So Ty,
Yes,
tell us who you brought with you and what you are looking at from the arena.
so I brought Luke and Jake with me. Green,
Manon resident, by the way, Jake Vichy, Net Zero Design. I specialize in LED lighting and controls, so I've been invited in to put together a comprehensive lighting design for the arena, so that's why. Thanks for allowing me to be part of your town meeting for today.
We're happy to have any.
so part of what we found at the arena was we have lighting over the ice surface that needs some work before we can hold games there. So we looked into options on, is it worth dumping the money into the lighting that's currently there to get us through this season and then hope, well, maybe we'll have to Band-Aid a little bit less next year? Or is it worth looking at new lighting and see where it was? So the Recreation Commission got hold of Luke, who works for.
Yeah, so I'm with Green Mountain Electric Supply, and I was a part of the last project in 2011, and I'm the former president of the arena board as well. So I've been kind of involved with the rink for my whole life, basically. But and basically at this point, you're looking at $3,000 to $4,000, I think, just to get your current lighting up to where it needs to be, with reballasting some ballasts that are out and then relamping the entire project. So that's kind of why we came to say, hey, I think we've got a better option here that might make sense, that give you a little return on investment as well.
So both the guys came to our at our last meeting, the meeting before, and presented their thoughts to our board, and then our board came to the agreement that, hey, it does make more sense to do this LED project. So we
So for those of us, or for those in the audience that don't understand, why do we need LED lighting? What's better? What happens with that versus the regular fluorescent?
So, just so I understand the dynamic, the town owns the building,
Yes.
and the rec department maintains the lighting, pays for the electricity.
It's all town money, but yes, the rec commission.
So if something breaks, they're responsible for it. And the electricity bill, they pay that?
it's on the town.
We're all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
We just
They
manage.
just help manage it because the select board doesn't have enough time to manage each individual
Okay.
department like that.
Okay, all right. So, what's currently over there is, it's a fluorescent fixture. It's a 6-lamp high output T5 fixture. The input wattage is about between 350 and 354 watts. And the problem with fluorescents is they rapidly depreciate over time. You'll get significant color shift, and you won't have as much light from the day that they were installed after just maybe even a couple of years. Currently, there's ballasts that have failed over there. There's lights that are on their way out. There's lamps that have been burnt out. So Luke describing having to put $5,000 or $6,000 into just relamping and reballasting the fixtures is probably not a great idea, considering that the new technology that's available today is much superior in terms of it lasts probably 5 to 6 times longer. It uses 50% less energy up to that, not including the controls package that these guys they've asked us to put together. From the town's perspective, it's really going to be a better lit arena, and I know that's probably a big draw for some time. I know my nephew played Pee Wee up here, so I'm assuming Milton had a contract with you guys at some point, I believe. They rent ice space from Karen's now. My experience, I've done the Waterbury facility. I've also done both rinks at Karen's, so I know the application pretty well. So what's there now to match that is, I feel it's underlit, and I think we could really increase color rendering, which is how the place looks, how colors appear, yeah, it's I think the benefits are vast. I could go on and on all day long about what's better about the technology.
So basically, it comes down to, okay, we got to put. I heard from 3 to 5 so far, and what we need to repair over there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that stuff pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in the middle, say $4,000 to replace what's there, right? And then, okay, the new project, I still haven't heard that number yet. So I'd like to hear that number. And then what would the payback be on that new dollar amount minus the $4,000
Right.
of what we have to put in there?
Right.
I mean, if it's a 10-year payback,
Yeah. So
it might not make sense.
I didn't quote, or we didn't quote the what it would cost. I mean, you guys could get several quotes on both labor and that's just hard cost on the goods from
Yep.
Green Mountain Electric Supply. That doesn't include getting lifts in there and labor. I mean, the cost to go up there and change both ballast and change all the lamps would be about the same to put a brand new, premium LED luminaire. So, and at the run out.
Do you have ballots?
What's that?
LED?
They have, it's called an LED driver. It's the
Is that,
equivalent.
is that on the bulb or is it separate?
It's separate, yeah.
How many lumens are you talking each unit?
So,
As opposed to one per
yeah, so what you have right now is you have, out of a 6-lamp HOT5, you have a delivered lumen out of the box of like maybe say 26,000 lumens. You only have 24 fixtures in there. Even at new, it's not, you do have some high school play here, I believe. It wouldn't be at IES standards, which is Illuminating Engineering Society. They're like, they hold the guidelines. So we spec a 48,000 lumen fixture, which is really gonna increase light levels.
So you're talking, presently, if they were excellent, it'd be 24,000.
I'm sorry, sir?
Presently, if they were in excellent condition, it'd be 24,000.
If they were brand new, you'd have 24,000 delivered.
Now, you're talking, your new units are 48,000.
Correct, and they use 30% less energy.
Okay, that's the point I wanted to bring out. Do they use as much energy, or do they use, because you're using double the lumen?
Yep.
But you just said
So we're
30% less on the electrical.
Yeah, so we're gonna be able to increase light levels by probably over 200% from what's there now because of the depreciation of the fluorescents. And yes, they are more energy efficient, about 30%.
And what's the life generally on?
These, they have a 5-year warranty, but at your run hours, we're talking about like 20 something years. They're rated for 100,000 hours at L80, which means they'll be at 80% of their initial lumen output after 100,000 hours. Which the return on the investment, is it Joshua, is not great. It's more of getting the space well lit and getting rid of the maintenance. You don't have the run hours to really have a solid return on investment. It's more of a long-term investment. I would not push this as a great. If somebody were like, is this a really good return on investment? I would have to say, no, it's gonna be a very long, you just don't have the run hours there. You guys don't.
Next year we could put another $5,000, year after put another $5,000, in 3
And
years.
and still be putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, no offense, it's old technology, T5s were great 10, 12 years ago, but now, they've fallen by the wayside. LED is where it's at.
Luke, the price down here, is that taking effect the rebates?
No, so you would subtract that 43.75, I think, from the 24.
And the state still got their percentage, what they'll give back.
Yeah, so it's the rebates for the project would be 4,307.
Dropping though, right? The rebates,
Yeah,
we're way up
they keep
now.
going down.
Going down.
Yeah,
They're
Through the years, it's getting more.
just from 2017, end of 2017 to now, the rebates have been
30, right?
reduced. Some of them have been reduced by over 60%.
Yeah.
So that's
It's decent.
significant.
So-
And you guys pay in a lot each month,
Oh, yeah.
so, it's kind of my job to recover as much of that money as possible. And I take care of all the rebate payments.
So this price, that's not including install?
That's lock, stock, and barrel.
Okay.
That's labor.
That's everything.
Yep. You guys are tax exempt too, correct?
Yeah.
Does this include the dimmers that,
So I don't know what you guys are looking at. We had a couple of quotes. We put one together with just the
Right.
high output 48,000 lumen fixture with wire guards, straight 1-for-1 retrofit or replacement, and then one with a control package.
That's the.
That's what they're looking at with the control
Okay.
package.
so
Yeah.
this is with the dim? So
That's what
you don't
we got
have to
here.
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you have there, that's
Yeah.
so the base, correct me if I'm wrong,
No,
Luke,
you're
the
right.
base for, just to put the lights in is 19,250. To put the control package on, that we would be able to control the need
You'd have
control the lights
zero.
for the
Well, like
need,
if you're doing whitetails, you don't need
Yep.
the lumens you have for.
and from everything I'm
You have
hearing,
0 to 10. Yep, you have 0 to 10.
so from everything we were told from these guys when they presented, it sounds like with those lights, if we put them on 100, it's 10 times more light than we need, you know, for there. So it didn't make sense for us to present this to the select board without the control package and then come back 2 years later and say, or a year later and say, hey, this is more light than we need to go look into a dimmer package or a controls pack, controls.
Yeah, right. The other nice thing about this controls package, it's a new package that literally just came out today with a company that we're used to dealing with. Typically controls get commissioned by a third-party company that charges $2,500 per commissioning. This is something that I could come and do anytime, and I live in town, so it wouldn't be a big deal. So as needs change at the rink, let's say 10 years from now, the needs change, I could help commission to change that around, and it wouldn't be a big deal.
But wouldn't we be saving electricity if they were on 50%?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean,
You got 46 new lights here, and you're saying that's gonna produce 100 times more light than
not
you
100
need?
times.
I'm quoting Tom.
Okay.
No, I said 10.
It wouldn't be 10 times more even. You've got right now, without ice being down, you've got a peak over there of like maybe 25-foot candles. So you're gonna have a peak with the ice on there of like over 100-foot candles. We're getting.
Average of 90.56.
So, and these are calculations, you know, but we're you know, margin of error is usually, you know, plus or minus 10 points on that. So, you know, 100-foot candles is good. NHL specs is 200-foot candles if you want to use that for a reference point. High school, you should have a minimum of 50. So,
So is there any salvage value to the old lamps?
not really. So, I mean, there's scrap metal's not, you know, doing very well right now. You know, you could put them on Craigslist. I mean, they can be retrofitted, but it's yeah, I would say very little. You know.
On that, I guess.
Yeah, they're also
Right, they're
480
volts.
Is this what the new layout is supposed to be, or what's this?
We didn't do an exact layout of what you had there, because you couldn't figure it out, so we just put the 23 in.
So, can we look, would we be looking at a 30% energy cost savings for the time that the lights are running?
Depending, if you do decide to go with control package, the control package, it's very hard to determine without setting like with Cairns, they're like, we wanna run it at, you know, 5% for this amount, 15% for this amount, 50%, so on and so forth. So we are able to work through it with Efficiency Vermont to say, okay, this is a, you know, a calculated energy savings without us sitting down and figuring out how often we want to dim it and to what level. It's very straight up. We're going from, you know, one fixture to another. It's about 30% more efficient. So you will save more energy by running those fixtures at a lower output for sure. But at the run hours, it's not going to quantify a really good return. It's just it's pretty expensive to add that control package. Again, this isn't a you know, in my opinion, it's not. I know return on investment might be important, but if I were to try, if you're like return on investment is the most important thing, I could say, okay, I can give you equivalencies now and give you a decent return with a more efficient fixture. But in my opinion, whatever you decide to do, it's going to be there for a long time. So you might as well have that capability to have a very well lit arena. I think it's going to be worth it because it's more of a long-term investment. I can give you what's equivalent, but equivalent is not good. I don't think we should be using that as the baseline. That's just my professional opinion.
So the rec commission has asked the select board if we would agree to them accessing the funds for this project. Shelley, correct me, they do have that funds available, so.
I think it's a great idea.
I-
I've seen
And
the
the renovation.
lighting done, and I think it's a great idea.
I'd like to know what the committee's recommendation is.
Our recommendation is well, this is an updated quote. On Tuesday of this week, we are approved to recommend the same quote, $5,000 more. The difference being that new control system came out today, and Luke brought the $24,000 quote.
Your
$24,000.
recommendation is to replace the lighting.
Replace the lighting, yes, with yes.
The fundraising account? Because I don't believe that's what, are you talking the fundraising account? Or are you talking what you were gonna redo your bathrooms with?
No, fundraising.
Okay, so the fundraising account has $71,000 left in it.
And that's where they would take this money for?
Correct.
You on the rec committee?
No.
I got enough shit going on.
Yeah, but
I stop in from time to time. I think it's a great idea. I think we should. That money's there for the benefit of the arena to make it better and brighter.
I'd go along with that.
There's this project we want to do. I'm just looking at it as, you know, the projects from when I was on the committee. We wanted to do this, redo the locker room somehow, redo an air handler in the warm space to try to for makeup air or exhaust. So I mean, it's a project we need to do, and I think we should do it.
Okay, we can make that a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
now, is that their request to access funds?
Yes, because it's over $5,000.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes.
Will this be done before this ice season?
This will be done.
So since they're 480 volt fixtures, it's about a 3-week lead time for the fixtures, so we're probably looking a couple weeks into October before the fixtures.
Yeah, but when ice is, I've done both 3 rinks now with ice down, and we
Theirs
can,
will be down by then.
yeah, a standard scissor works just fine on the ice, so we have to, there's no disruption in ice time, and we can do it off hours, so. No
The
problem.
beauty thing is there's nothing going on there during the day.
Yep.
First thing comes on around, what, 4 o'clock or something?
when the kids get out of
4,
school.
so.
Even better.
Bruce, did you have any other?
That's enough of a motion to authorize them to proceed with.
Well, we went through the purchasing
Replacement.
policy, Bruce, and
Yeah,
because this is a specialty item, there was that exception, and there was another exception. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we did read through the purchasing policy to make sure that they didn't need to put it out to bid. And there were a couple of things in there that,
okay, good. No, I think we should do it.
Yeah.
There's been so much investment in that rink, it wouldn't make any sense to, now not be able to see inside the place. But I also just was asking to be sure that, whatever authorization we need to do is covered.
and that renovation account is not earmarked for anything
Right.
specific other than arena renovation projects. So
Yeah.
this would be,
And you've got people that
Definitely
goes
need to
into
be.
the arena from out of town.
That's what we're looking for.
And they look at this arena, what a beautiful arena, you guys have done a beautiful job.
Yeah.
Well, as a Highgate resident, it makes you feel really good that we're moving forward, we're not moving backwards. And I think we should be very proud of that building.
Plug out there, anyone want to donate?
Yeah,
There you go.
we should be very proud of that building. I would love
some
to have
local
that when I
businesses
was
still
here
are,
as a kid.
Josh.
Beautiful,
Last year, I think Jolly gave us 7,000.
beautiful.
Good.
So yeah,
And
any
you're-
businesses,
You were gonna spend 4 or 5,000 to just renovate that piece for your control right there.
any businesses want to donate, anything?
And just so the board knows, on our Tuesday meeting, we also had another quote from from these guys,
We spend enough of them.
for, outdoor lighting, for, wall packs to light up our parking lot. And, we gave them the go-ahead to, put, 8 units in to light up our parking lot, out of our operation funds. Just a safety concern. It's been
Safety concern.
It's been safety for
That parking
15
lot-
years.
That parking lot is not very well.
And just out of curiosity, is there lease lights? Are you guys paying for lease lights in that space? Does anybody know that? There's a couple of floodlights, I
The
believe.
one, well, the town's paying for the ones on the Gore Road, right? We pay Swan Electric so much a month for each light, a street light.
I think there's two at the.
There's 2 floods, they
There's
look,
one right at the other end near the cell tower. I saw that one lit up tonight.
so what I'd like, if this goes through, I think that you would most likely be able to turn those off and not have, you'd be able to save that money every month. It's gonna be very well lit in that lot once we're finished. So that's another, that would have a very good.
These wall packs are going on the side of the building?
Yeah, they're gonna be on both gables. One of them, as you're entering the arena, is gonna be towards, I don't know what direction that is, it's gonna be more towards the lot. So, you've got light coming in, and shining out, and then there's gonna be, I believe, 6, down the sides. And then one more, you guys have.
I just want to make sure we're not blasting into a.
No, so it's got a full cutoff, it's a type 3 distribution, but it's got
I
a.
love lighting up parking lots, but
Yep.
like angry.
Yep, so
residents scream at us.
these have a full cutoff, they're dark sky compliant, it is a type 3. So what I'm hoping to do is get the light to actually shine down, but it's gonna push the light off from the building and give you some nice even distribution. I really think you're gonna be able to just get rid of those
Can
lease
you
lights.
send me what, you must have like a.
Cut sheet or something?
Yeah, a cut sheet, but like what the lumens would be or whatever.
Yeah, I've got it in the car, I didn't think we were gonna talk about it tonight. So.
Yeah, just like.
At 40 feet, you still have 1 foot candle, which is pretty good in the parking lot still.
So when you're driving in, it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna go off the side, so you're
Yep.
gonna actually see where, if
Yep,
there
so-
is any
yep.
ice. I know myself, I'm petrified of falling, and
Yeah.
a lot of times I
Well,
was
no, I
tiptoeing.
want the entrance lit up, I also.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I feel bad about the
The
house
neighbors,
across
yes,
road.
yes, I understand that,
That's what I,
yeah.
you know.
But I'm glad to see the driveway being lit up.
The parking lot's all striped now, so people will be able to see.
I mean, the
where
other
Yes,
option
yes.
too is since we're rewiring it, I mentioned this in the rec board meeting. Lutron's got some pretty great controls now that someone that's either in charge or it can be designated we can have it on a photocell, which is when it's, basically when it's dark, the lights come on, and when it's light enough, they go off. That's the most simple, that's what I expect. However, while we're rewiring it, we could have somebody assigned to have access from a mobile device that can set a schedule and can turn them off maybe so they're not on all night blasting the neighbors.
Yeah, we want
300
them on.
okay.
In my opinion, I would like them on all
Yeah,
night, because
okay. Okay.
that area will turn into something else.
At least a couple of lights in on
The
it.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
all,
that's, I mean,
maybe
that,
not all of them, but
yeah,
maybe a
that's-
couple.
They'll leave Mill Hill and go there.
yeah. Yeah, but that, maybe
They're moving around.
maybe something, that's a great suggestion where, you look at you have your calendar, when there's activities, we want them all lit up, and there's a lot of nights where there's not a lot going on, where you have, we have every other security lights. I mean, we're having to run all new infrastructure out there, and just tap off existing.
So the option's there.
The option is there, that's not built in. Right now, I love photocells, they're simple, they're cost effective. It's dark, lights are on, it's light, lights go off. Don't overcomplicate it, but in this scenario, because if you're concerned about, your neighbors or whatever, there's.
I guess it'll be something we can maybe add later.
Sure.
Then I just,
That's some kind of switcher, you can shut off a couple, leave this a couple on.
I think what you're looking for is probably some sort of layout, so you can see what it's gonna look like, and we can get Dylan on that, we can put that together.
I literally have it. So.
Okay, great.
Also buy a new curtain.
Yeah. What's that?
You buy a new curtain.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a school mostly, but is there there's houses?
Couple of
Couple.
houses.
Two houses.
House right there by the school, right on the
Okay.
entrance, one across the road, three across the road.
Okay. Yeah.
Issues.
Taking a-
Okay, so Ty, was there anything else?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Soccer started.
Yeah, soccer started, cross country started. Dehumidifier. The dehumidifier is in, it is operational. Tuesday, they are coming from Arid Ice to do factory startup and training with members of the board and Rob, and I think Josh has been invited, I don't know. So the guy from Michigan or Minnesota, one or the other, will be here to do a full training with us to maximize that unit. They cleaned up the job today and that'll be running on whatever the date is, Tuesday. And ice in schedule should be the last week of September, so other than that, I don't really have much.
Okay.
Whitetails this weekend?
Whitetails is this weekend, yes. I don't know if there's still tickets available. Contact Ray Jablonski if you're interested in going. But yeah, they set up tables today. It's good in there. Ready for 'em. Cornhole's next weekend.
So lots going on at the arena.
Did you get any further with your trip with Butch yesterday?
We tried one of the 3 tractors. We've narrowed it down to. We're going to talk with Richard about looking at his tractor because Foonier's didn't have the model we were looking at in stock, and CCR is bringing the other model up from the Essex store for us to go try that one out. So we've narrowed it down to what we think to 3 tractors and in hopes to narrow it down further after trying those other 2 tractors out.
The other one is the clutch is out of it.
Yeah, this is not
Oh,
a
okay.
cat tractor, it's something different. Cost wise, they're all pretty
They're
close.
all right in, I don't know on me, but they're real close.
Yep.
They're all doable for what we budgeted for, I believe.
So we're gonna do, try mine out?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, that Richard, I was wondering which Richard I'm talking to.
Okay. All right, thank you gentlemen for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for
Yeah.
them before we? Okay, thank you, Ty.
You can share my contact info with anybody here if anybody, thinks of something later on. I'm always accessible. You can email me, call me. I love to talk about this stuff anyway, so. All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Take care.
So start running.
Okay, Shelley. Okay.
Check
Need
warrant
that.
for you.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on the check warrant?
I have a big one, 3 weeks between meetings. And then the only thing I really have is, while you're signing that, the auditors were here the last week of August for 3 days. They're coming back one day, probably next week, to finish up, and then that project will be done.
Beautiful.
And fixed assets will be done as well. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Moving ahead. What are you smirking about?
I make myself laugh all the time.
It's a gift.
Yeah, you just sit here and make myself laugh.
Well, I hear the tax bills are printed.
We did print the tax bills, still preparing them to go into the envelopes. We will be stuffing them September 14th and putting them in the mail, so. I will say, I'm impressed, it's been the longest list of prepayments I've ever seen. So I am proud of people that have put themselves on a solid budget, and when they get their bill, there are several that will owe nothing. So,
Beautiful.
yes, I would much rather that than have them charge penalties and interest.
Okay.
Back up so you can continue with Wendy while they're signing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wendy?
That was easy.
Yeah, easy, moving on.
You've had a lot of special meetings, so you have 4 total sets of minutes. Your last regular meeting, and then you've had 3 special meetings. So, August 9th, that's when you went to the school board meeting, I believe.
So, August 9th, do I have, that was when you
Yeah.
and Steve and I went to the school board meeting?
Yep, and we just made one motion at it, right?
Correct, that was the
Paving.
Pikes paving, yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I recuse.
Whoop. No, it just says he wasn't there.
You weren't there. Yeah.
Let me just do that for the 2, 3 of them I wasn't there for.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
very
so for Thursday, August 21st, special meeting.
Let's see.
That was with the education.
Oh, yeah.
Secretary French.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve that.
All those in favor, whoops,
I'll
sorry.
second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Monday, August 27th. Bruce, that was you.
Yep.
You and I.
There you go, buddy.
I was not there, right?
Can 2 of us approve the minutes?
We'll have to.
I guess so, huh?
You motion,
Make
I'll
the
second.
motion. May I make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. You weren't there.
Aye.
Anyway, go ahead.
The 16th, that was a regular meeting, the only one that wasn't there was Bruce.
Okay, so then do I have a motion for the regularly scheduled select board meeting on the 16th of August?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. And the only other thing I have, because it's getting closer, is the general election, November 6th. I don't have ballots yet, but they did send me a sample ballot, so Jerry. They won't be this large, mind you. But this is ours for our district. It's two-sided. Our local JPs are on the back. So we'll let everybody know when they come and vote that it is two-sided, it is noted here. I should have absentees in the next maybe 2 weeks, so I'll post more information as we have them. That's it for me.
All right, moving right along. Heidi?
Okay. I have your FEMA grant in hand.
So this is for
the phase 1 for the transfer station. So this will cover design, permitting, and the initial phases to get you estimates for construction. So there are 2 separate grants. One is for the full design process, that's the 47. And then there's also an administrative grant that's for $945, that's just to cover some town hours. And there was an advance notice in that, so that's good news because that will cover the cost of the designs you've done to date. So that's a nice help also. So that's actually made out to me, that's the way FEMA works. And so if you can approve those grants, I will sign them and send them back.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or concerns on that?
No match or anything, right?
There is a match,
What was it?
15,000.
And it's already set aside in your capital budget. You had 52, something like that, so you took the 15 out of that.
Okay.
So, and that's what we've committed to is, for FEMA, is to get the design, to look at what the engineer comes up with, and that is as far as we have gone so far. So, do I have a motion?
Excuse me.
I'll make that motion.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye of allowing Heidi to sign both the administrative cost grant and the original application for phase 1. All those say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. A little convoluted there, but.
And just as a side note, I mentioned before, Michael Casella of Casella will be coming. I have to correct what I said because I said the 20th, but he did let me know he couldn't make that. He's coming on October 4th. So he'll be here at that meeting. And he was coming in to talk to you about
Other stuff.
that, the pricing and this grant. They'll need support from them, getting people in and out. So the Transportation Alternatives Grant has opened up. And that was previously what we had used to install the sidewalks. This year it's completely focused on stormwater, road stormwater issues. And that's a $300,000 maximum. But I sat through a webinar today and basically they're looking for large projects. They're looking for, you know, a minimum of $250,000. And they're not just looking to, you can't do in kind, so it has to be out of pocket match. And the town wouldn't be doing it ourselves. So it's not one of your readily had grants. So you'd have to have a project you really want to accomplish and you'd have to put out of pocket. We'd have to hire someone to do the work. We'd have to hire construction inspection. It's a full, you know, it's federal money, so it's a big deal. So
What was our match, you said?
we would have to put in 50,000
50.
for a $250,000
And when is this,
project.
when is the deadline on this? If we-
October 17th.
Yeah, I don't see us putting something together before then.
Yeah, and we don't have anything in our stormwater mitigation projects that would require $250,000 in this one, do we?
I think there are.
How about the school, though, where they have all the water problems there for stormwater?
I think they have a grant.
They have their own,
I met with
I
Regional
was
Planning
thinking-
Commission and she said they have a grant.
what, do you know
For
what
that.
yours was?
Carter Hill Road.
I don't.
Okay.
All the
I don't.
culverts and ditches,
Okay.
everything along that whole road and paving.
So there's gotta be a water quality
'Cause-
impact. So-
Yeah, because all the ditches along there really isn't proper ditching, so
Right.
it,
Where are you talking?
Carter Hill Road.
Carter Hill Road. Yeah, and it's
From the
steep,
four corners all the way.
yeah.
But I just, I mean, I don't think we could get Jim together, come up with a plan, come up with everything before that deadline. I just don't
No
think we
way,
could.
yeah.
That's just the deadline to apply.
That's the deadline to apply. I think we could certainly pull something together by then,
And
but
then,
it's, you know,
and then the project would happen next year, so we'd have to do a capital planning this coming year for the 50.
So we would have the 50 in hand before the project.
it's a 2 to 4 year process, just like the Macy Road, so you don't have to have your money immediately.
'Cause I mean, I think that road could eat up some funds, because that
Yeah.
road's in very disrepair.
Well, that's what it's designed for, and if it's going into a nearby waterway,
You also have a problem in East Highgate. where, it's the end of the Hannah or the Durkee that hit 78?
Hannah always.
Anyway, if you look in the brush down there, there's a ditch and a culvert, and it goes right straight to the river.
We do have some funds, we've already been awarded the grant and aid through Regional Planning Commission. We'll be doing that drainage area on the Hannah side.
All the way to 78?
Not that far.
Because if you go 4 feet off the
Yeah.
road, you're gonna drop 10 feet down. Boom. You can't see it's in bushes.
Yeah, and the neighbors have been saying there's no drainage in there, just, there's no ditching on that lower
But
section.
is that state culvert?
Good point.
If it
But
goes
where
under-
we tie into it with off the Hannah Road,
Right, I think that's all state, I think.
good point. But that is a problem.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, and Durkee Road has, I think Diana had mentioned when she was on the board, there's a couple areas that continually fill with sand coming down that steep hill. on
So
the
is it
Durkee
worth
side.
getting with Jim and just taking like an hour of his time, have him go with Butch and ride Carter Hill Road and say, hey, look, could this turn into this, a project of this size?
He is coming on Monday at 10:30 to meet with Butch. Butch wanted to ask him some questions about the Tart Road
Yep.
and get a little more detail on frontage road.
Can you put a ear in their bug and have him do that? And if Jim says, hey, look, this could be.
I will not do that, but I could put a bug in their ear.
Yeah, you know what I meant.
Yes.
Just let it go.
And, yeah, and Pat and Nick, Butch and Nick were looking at it, and I thought Butch was gonna be here tonight, but, so they may have some thoughts, so, yep.
That'd be good. 'Cause I think that road could eat up those funds. It's pretty bad, especially where the Pompano ties in. And there's always standing water there. It's always eroding.
And when you have to go through the federal process, you can eat up money quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like the other grants that you do,
Right.
so it's quite likely. Because you have to hire an inspection consultant. Yeah. So, it's another opportunity to get a project done for very little
Well, that's
investment.
what I like.
So if it works.
Yeah, see if they
Meanwhile, it
dig
costs us
around.
less money if we just did it. Whatever. It's something to look at, and we can weigh out both options.
Yep. So, the Mesa Road project, they have completed the geological information, and you have that in your Dropbox, and they wanted to circle and meet with the committee again, and just say where they are and get your input. So, the tentative date is the 11th, so that's Tuesday. That's
I thought that was changed.
No, it's gonna be tonight.
It was changed to that.
Tuesday at 9 or something?
It's Tuesday, it's the 12th, thank you.
The next Tuesday.
It's still tentative.
That might work, because I think they started the humidifier that morning.
Yes.
Is it Tuesday the 11th or Wednesday the 12th?
I wrote down the 11th, but it's Tuesday, so.
Tuesday is the 11th.
Okay.
So I think they're starting the humidifier that morning, so maybe I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone that morning.
Great, that'd be
If we
awesome.
can get this meeting a little early.
10?
9 AM.
Well, I had 2 meetings tonight at 7, so.
And I will definitely follow up with you on Monday and make sure we hadn't heard exactly, so that was a done deal. So,
Beautiful.
there's an update on most of your major projects in my report to you. The only other one I wanted to say is about the airport planning project. On a related note, the state contacted us and they wanted to come to Highgate and do public meetings. I think they're doing that in several areas to talk about their plans at the airport, and they asked if they could use this room on the 15th at 6 p.m. to hold a public meeting where they would do a presentation about everything that they're proposing there.
This month?
October 15th.
It's a Monday.
Okay, sorry.
We talked about the charrette and the surveys already. I have the traffic ordinance for you, just to take another look at that. We need to amend for the speed change to Tanglewood Drive. And Public Works pointed out that we also reduced the speed on Humphrey Road. We didn't change that. And there was also two roads that were taken over by the town. So Boone Drive and Meadow Lane should be added in as well. So I'm just asking you to take a look at it. We're gonna have to change it for all those things. Is there anything else we need to change it? We might as well do it at the same time, because it'll be a project to get it all done.
Yeah, I didn't see anything else after I looked at it. Sure, chance to. Do you want to take more time to look at it, gentlemen, or are we ready to just edit it and?
I can start working on it and editing, and you can take a minute to just mull it over if there's anything else that pops up, because.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I'll bring that back to you next time, bring it up again. I did have a chance to type your 911 ordinance, which you had already signed. Sorry, you had already approved, so all you need to do is just sign it. You don't even need to make a motion. So, just do that before you leave. I just wanted to put it on your radar. We've got a letter from CERC, which manages all the hazardous waste, and we are now obligated to do Tier 2 reporting, which means every substance that has any potential impact. And there's a list. Yeah, so we have to do that for the arena library here, and I was a little surprised to find out that sand is on the list of hazardous materials.
I know, who would have thunk it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so,
don't eat too much of it, that's all.
you're right, I guess you can't inhale it either, so, I'm gonna need to work with each of the departments to get through that.
It's not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, I guess not, and they said it's just the first year too that's a hassle, and after that, it's
You
not
just
a big
update.
deal. Okay, so the water testing, we have 3 applicants, Rob, Nick, and Butch, and the town needs to sign off that you want them to do that
Okay.
as the owner.
Any questions
Rob,
or
too,
concern
really?
about that?
Well, I just think it as more of a public works thing than a rec thing. That's why I guess it would be just a 2-town, just Nick and Butch instead of Rob. I don't know.
I had just understood that you were just gonna do them so that you had backup one way or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we talked about last
I
time.
thought we talked about just doing my public works guys, but.
No, I think we added him while he was here.
Yeah. I don't remember that, but.
No, I think you did it last meeting too that I was here at, that you
Yeah.
had added to it.
Yeah, I probably just don't remember it. I don't remember a lot of things.
So are we okay with that?
If everyone is,
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the cost per license?
$45?
Yeah, alright.
Okay, so that's done. There was just some things for executive, and I do have a letter regarding FAC.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay, so if you're prepared to sign that,
Yeah.
that.
You guys read through it, I want for that. Here's the original, right, yeah, here's the original, and then there's the updated.
Most of it changed from Pat to Butch.
Right.
Hold on.
This one, get what's it, there we go.
go, Mr.
You guys good with that?
Yes.
Go, buddy.
I'm good with it.
That's it for me. Okay. Did I get the 911 ordinance back?
I didn't even know if it went out.
Didn't get to here.
No, I didn't get over
I
the set.
thought you just put a copy out there. There is one right here.
I did put one out there, but I guess I didn't pass it down, or I would just put it out in case Josh wanted to.
Yeah, I think I ended up looking at the tablet.
It is your existing ordinance, there's no changes to it, we just never had a signed copy that we found. I'm sure there was a signed copy somewhere.
So I don't have anything for select board items that are not executive.
Because I know a lot of people are calling.
Yeah.
The roadside mower, we will be getting on that sooner than later. The PTO burnt out on it, clutch. The first, it actually burnt out last week when Butch was on vacation, and I wanted to talk to Butch a little bit about it before we got it fixed. Yeah, and anyway, the first estimate we had to fix it was $3,000, and then, of course, if the tractor only books $2,200, you put $3,000 into it. And I talked in some time with Butch, and we came up with, well, we wanted to get another quote, and then Richard suggested Richard King. And so we brought it up there, and the price, I think, was like $1,100 or $1,300 to do it.
Somewhere's in that vicinity, depending on part. The clutch is already out of it.
Yeah.
You got it all apart.
And so I said, yes, go ahead and do that. Because one, we can't rent one for that, and two, we tried looking for a tractor last week when we went down and we couldn't find one, and that seemed to make sense for the time being. And like Butch says, it doesn't make sense to buy a $60,000 tractor you use for maybe 100 hours a year.
But that will give you some time to get that one repaired. That'll give you some time to locate one in your price range and the size you want.
Right.
Then that one will have some value. That's a 1974.
Yeah.
That was bought back when I was on select board. Came out of the Air Force, Air Base in Plattsburgh.
Rugged tractor.
It is.
Really rugged.
But it's.
But, see?
Exactly. I ended up, took my little tractor and mowed the gore all the way to Franklin.
We did.
Yeah. I like to look at my road.
Well, I just, and I thank you for your offer for that, because I think
I
you offered
understand
it.
why.
And I said no because it didn't have ropes on rollover protection, and I didn't think it'd be wise to put a town employee on a tractor that doesn't have rollover protection if mowing roadsides.
The tractor I had available was just an open station tractor, no top, no sides. But that type of mower, I experienced it a couple weeks ago what it could do. Blew the glass door right out of my cab when a knife let go.
So anyway, that's why I'm excited to do that.
Again, we do appreciate your offer, but
Yeah,
I would concur with you absolutely.
I understand that tractor I had available.
But definitely, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was it. Oh, one other one was, did you talk to so-and-so about Mill Hill?
I sent her an email, but I have not heard back.
So basically, guys, to keep you updated on Mill Hill, we're supposed to start that project right off and start stripping it and getting it, putting in, re-sloping it because of our grant deadline of October, I think. Well, Pikes came back to us and said, well, we appreciate us getting the bid, but however, we wouldn't be able to do this project till late November. So with that on their schedule, I was a little scared about tearing into that hill if, one, we may not, if we get a cold fall, and we can't get pavement back on that hill, I think we'll lose that road.
Then
We'll lose that road this winter and the spring.
Right.
So I asked Heidi to reach out to the grant people and say, hey, look, we had the dam project down there that delayed us. We were hoping to do it this spring, but we couldn't because of the project, and hopefully they be a little kind-hearted and let us push it to next.
Hey, have you reached out to them?
Yes, she's out of the office until the 7th, so I think.
Do they usually
Monday.
will they alter something like that, you think?
You can get an extension to a
Yeah.
grant for, I mean, that's a valid reason, and
That's
it was out of our
that's really a
control.
valid reason.
And Butch said it
So-
wouldn't break his heart at all.
What did the bid come in for pipe?
Huh?
What did they come in at?
I don't remember the
Cost,
number,
yeah.
but it was 100 a
Yeah.
ton. I don't remember. It was 130 maybe to do that, I don't know. What is it?
Yeah, I would think it was something like that.
130 maybe, but it was.
You're close there.
There's quite a bit of pavement. It was a shim and then a 2-inch or,
Overcoat.
yeah, they,
Now, who's gonna do the rectifying of base? Them or the town?
we are, 'cause
Yeah.
it's not the whole amount. It's only the top 200 or feet of it, 300 feet of it, because we actually have to re-pitch
Mhm.
the grade back towards
So
the
that
hill.
means tearing up the pavement to get down to the,
Yeah,
and taking probably some of that fill that you've got from the dam, put it back in it.
yeah, and a lot of that pavement is gonna be going, well, we'll reclaim it and bring it down there, because Butch did a test hole on the, guardrail side, and we figured there's at least 2 feet of asphalt there.
Works.
Yeah, from the years of,
Yeah.
let's just shim it,
Yeah.
let's just shim it, let's just shim
That
it.
ain't a shim at the plug.
Right,
Yeah, that's a big plug.
so,
So yeah, they'll have
a little work there with the
Yeah.
excavator.
They'll have culverts put in, DIs to move, so they'll have,
It's a big project.
It'll be,
okay, anything else?
No, I think that's all.
Okay.
One on the core is coming good. They've got,
Yeah.
today they did one of the culverts with their patching in. So now they got 3 more to do.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good getting that done.
Anything else?
The sweep is better coming off the tar now.
Anything else from the public?
You hire somebody for the, town road crew?
That is an executive session next.
Oh, okay.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, they too.
All right, so I make a motion to exit the general session of the select board and enter into executive session with the inclusion of Heidi and Shelley. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right,
Got it.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you, folks.